Hello everyone, we have the news for today, March 13th, as I'm reading this, of 2026, and all members of Texas Antifa cell convicted in first federal terrorism trial. Federal terrorism trial. You may remember November 20th of 2025, the post-millennial, or I should say Andy No's post-millennial, printed his report, Andy No Reports, First Antifa Terrorism Convictions in U.S. History. Now, this is a little bit different, the same case, or same incident or whatever, but it says Texas, five far-left extremists in Texas have admitted in federal court to being Antifa members in a North Texas Antifa cell carried out by an ambush terror attack on an ICE facility. You can see some of the faces of the 9 right there. If we go to today's report, you can see all 9 of the faces are right there. And what a lovely bunch they are. We'll get back to the first federal terrorism trial in a moment, but let's go back to last November, where we read 5 far-left extremists have admitted to being Antifa members and terrorists in federal plea deals stemming from a coordinated ambush shooting on a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility on the 4th of July. You may remember that was the police officer was shot in the neck, and the police were shot at. The article, Andy No continues, it is the first known case in U.S. history in which Antifa members have officially admitted to being part of an organized Antifa cell. Oh, I thought there was no such thing as Antifa. It's just anti-fascism. It's not a real organization at all. They don't physically exist. On November 19th, Seth Sykes, Joy Abigail Gibson, Lynette Reed Sharp, Nathan Bauman, and John Philip Thomas each admitted to one count of providing material support to terrorists for their role in the shooting attack on the Prairieland facility in Alvarado, Texas, that resulted in a police officer being shot in the neck and others being fired upon. As a part of their plea deals, which would see them imprisoned for no more than 15 years, they were facing up to decades in prison. They also agreed to a set of stipulated or formally agreed upon facts of the case. Quote, beginning on or about July 3rd, 2025, and continuing until on or about July 4th, 2025, the Northman District of Texas, and they redacted the defendant name, planning with others to provide resources and personnel, including himself/herself, the name would have been there, but they redacted it, knowing and intending that they would be used to carry out acts of terrorism, unquote. Bauman, Gibson, and Sykes admitted were true in the court filing. Okay, well, I think they mean they admitted that this is true or whatever. They admitted that the terrorism was, quote, calculated to influence or affect the conduct of government by intimidation or coercion or retaliate against government conduct, unquote. In Bauman's stipulated facts, he admitted, quote, Bauman found that others who participated in the acts against Prairieland adhered to an Antifa, revolutionary, anarchist, or autonomous Marxist ideology that is anti-law enforcement, anti-immigration enforcement, and calls for the overthrow of the United States government, law enforcement authorities, and the system of law. Antifa is a militant enterprise that advocates insurrection and violence to affect the policy and conduct of the U.S. government by intimidation and coercion. In line with his Antifa ideology, on or about July 3rd and July 4th, Bauman, along with others, participated in the planning of the quote-unquote direct action against Prairieland set for the night of July 4th to influence and affect the conduct of the government by intimidation and coercion, unquote. All 5 who pleaded guilty admitted that the, quote, Antifa cell, unquote, had, quote, conducted an act of terrorism, unquote. Well, this kind of blows out of the water a lot of the arguments that people have leveled against me for many years now, which is why I'm making this video. I'm kind of busy writing books. I don't even want to make this video, but, this is something that my channel has been primarily concerned about for about a decade now, and so it seems inappropriate to not address this. So basically, I told you so. Anyway, continuing. All 5 who pleaded, okay, they admitted it. Okay, so that's my point here is I'm right, you're wrong, I've always been right, you've always been wrong. There you go. Nanny nanny poo poo. Sykes, you like that, Tabby?
Stick your head in doo-doo is the
Stick your head in doo-doo, right.
That took me back to childhood right there. I was just like, oh shit, he knows it.
Yeah. Yep. And, that's the appropriate kind of language to use against these childish people who could be 60 years old and, having a Senate seat, or they could just be some random teenager online. They all come across the same when they're defending Antifa. You're all a bunch of scum. And you're all stupid. You're bad people. Because you know what? There's so much information about Antifa, you can no longer go with the excuse of, well, I thought they were just anti-fascist. No, everybody knows. You're all full of shit. At this point, only bad people are attracted to or defend Antifa. People who know they're bad, people who are doing it because they're bad, and they know it. There's no believable argument of ignorance. Alright, they continue. Sykes' admission provided more detail about how the North Texas Antifa cell operated. Quote, Sykes and his co-conspirators adhered to an Antifa anarchist ideology and organized cells for quote-unquote affinity groups around their beliefs, unquote. Formally organized Antifa networks are decentralized, with militant groups forming, calling themselves quote-unquote affinity groups. Here's some documentation of what I'm reading here from the court right there. You can click on this. I'll put links in the description for these articles, by the way. They continue. Gibson's admission detailed how they planned for the terror attack. Quote, some of those who participated had gone to Prairie Land during the day on July 4th to conduct reconnaissance using an encrypted messaging application. Gibson shared a photograph showing the location of a Prairie Land surveillance camera in a group chat that included other participants in the July 4th quote-unquote direct action against Prairie Land, unquote. Bauman, Gibson, Sykes have admitted that they dressed in black bloc, the unofficial Antifa uniform and mask, quote, in order to conceal their identities from law enforcement and provide cover for each other to commit crimes without being identified, unquote. And there's more court documentation. The article continues. The 3 also admitted that a quote-unquote co-conspirator 1, identified by this journalist as Benjamin Haddle Song, more about him in the next article, based on other documents and evidence, stood about 200 meters from the main group with an AR-15. Bauman admitted Song fired upon the facility to help him try to escape. Okay, Song, remember that name. Song is the one firing the gun, according to this article. Sharp and Thomas were not present on the night of the shooting. Both admitted to helping Song evade arrest for days. Sharp admitted that the day after the attack, she learned from him he was hiding out in the woods near the facility. She and Thomas admitted to conspiring with others to provide property, lodging, communications equipment, personnel, and transportation for Song. And there's Song himself. Sharp admitted to having the lead role in helping Song while he was an FBI Texas most wanted fugitive for 11 days. Now, Texas, they take those things seriously. So I wouldn't mess with Texas, but they did, and now they're finding out. She admitted to using an encrypted messaging application identified elsewhere as Signal to communicate with Song and arrange for him to be picked up and housed in an apartment in northern Texas. Quote, then on July 6th, Sharp provided co-conspirator 1 with clothing, a wig, a face covering, and other items so co-conspirator 1 could disguise his appearance from law enforcement, unquote. Sharp admitted, quote, later Sharp arranged for co-conspirator 1 to be brought to a public parking lot to hand him off to another co-conspirator who drove co-conspirator 1 to a different apartment, unquote. The plea deals follow the indictment of 7 additional suspects. We'll get more into them in the next article, bringing the total to 9 so far. On November 14th, Benjamin Song, Savannah Batten, Bradford Morris, a Trantifa known as Megan Morris, Marcella, I guess, Rueda Elizabeth Soto, Inez Soto, Daniel Rolando, Sanchez Estrada were indicted on federal crimes, including providing material support for to terrorists, rioting, using weapon and explosives, obstruction, and attempted murder. Attempted murder. And by the way, if you don't know, check through my timeline. Probably not on YouTube because they do remove such videos, but on Rumble, BitChute, etc., I have videos about Antifa killing in the past. This is not the first time they've attempted murder. They've actually murdered in the past. The article continues. Cameron Arnold, a transfer known as Autumn Hill, and Zachary Everetts were indicted on similar terrorism charges on October 15th, marking the first time in U.S. history any Antifa members have been formally accused of federal level of terrorism crimes, potentially facing life in prison if convicted on all counts at trial. Many of the members of the cells have taken or are expected to take pleas in which they admit to being part of the organized North Texas Antifa cell that carried out the terror attack. Rebecca Morgan and at least one other defendant are expected to plead guilty in court next week. There are 18 total suspects in the Prairieland facility shooting, with some facing state and/or federal charges. The 5 who have pleaded guilty to federal charges are still facing state charges by Johnson County prosecutors. Let's fast forward today. For me, being March 13th, no comment, NGO, comment as in Andy No. Andy No writes for his own Substack blog called No Comment, quote, or headline, all members of Texas Antifa cell convicted in first federal terrorism trial. Okay, all members of Antifa cell. And I don't think they mean the 15, I think they mean the 9. We'll find out. 9 defendants accused of July 4th, 2025 ambush on a Texas ICE facility. That's the incident we were just reading about. Face charges including providing support for terrorists and attempted murder of federal officers. Here's the 9 gorgeous winners right there. They're totally sane. Let's hear it for these people. Yay. Okay. Fort Worth, Texas. Okay. A federal jury in Fort Worth, Texas has convicted all 9 members of a North Texas Antifa cell in the first federal Antifa terrorism trial in U.S. history. The verdict followed 2 full days of deliberations after a trial that lasted 12 days. Benjamin Song, Cameron Arnold, a Antifa known as Autumn Hill, Bradford Morris, another Antifa activist known as Megan Morris, Zachary Everetts, Savannah Batten, Maricela Riva, Elizabeth Soto, Inez Soto, Daniel Rolando, Sanchez Estrada were indicted last year on federal charges including providing material support to terrorists, rioting, using an explosive device, and obstruction. Jurors found the defendants guilty of providing material support to terrorists, rioting, conspiracy to use/carry explosives, and using/carrying explosives. The jury acquitted the group on 2 of the charges: aiding attempted murder and aiding firearm discharge. Here we can see an ex-post from FPW_protect trans kids. God, these people are so sick. They tweeted or posted, the only appropriate response for the Prairie Land defendants is retaliation. Don't let the fascist state go unpunished. And that was from March 13th. 179 views. Wow, what winners. The caption there says Antifa associates are threatening violence in reaction to the verdict. Well, that's certainly gonna improve your public image there. You're going down the right way. Keep doing that. Benjamin Song, the article continues, whom prosecutors described as the ringleader, wasn't charged with the explosives related charges, but was convicted of the more serious attempted murder of a peace officer, as well as multiple counts related to discharging a firearm during a crime of violence. Daniel Rolando Sanchez Estrada a Mexican national who was found guilty of conspiracy to conceal documents and corruptly concealing documents or records after the attack. His partner, Maricela was also found guilty of conspiracy to conceal documents after telling him to hide her far-left extremist texts. The defendants, described by prosecutors as members of a North Texas Antifa cell, were accused of carrying out an ambush-style shooting attack on the Prairieland ICE facility, detention facility in Alvarado, Texas on July 4th, 2025. And there you can see some wise people trying to persuade using nonsense. All right. As the verdict was being, and by the way, there's a link to this article as well in the description. As the article continues, as the verdict was being read out, some of the Antifa supporters started wailing and crying, resulting in 2 of them being ejected from the courtroom. Gee, who would have guessed? I thought they would just sit there and be mature adults. They continued defendants Zachary Evans and Bradford Morris broke down in tears. Ringleader Benjamin Song continued smirking. Huh. So you're telling me he doesn't really care about the people that he pushed into doing this stuff? You mean they were just useful idiots for his amusement? You mean he's an idiot and doesn't realize that his ass is going to be widened? Anyway, quote, today's verdict on terrorism charges will not be the last as the Trump administration systematically dismantles Antifa and finally halts their violence on America's streets, unquote, said Attorney General Pamela Bondi, who should go fuck herself for being such a scumbag liar. By the way, remember, the files are on your desk. And then later on, what files? What are you talking about? And then later on, why do you care? All right. Quote, today's verdict shows the FBI remains committed to identifying, locating, and dismantling Antifa and its funding networks across the country, unquote, said the other scumbag, FBI Director Kash Patel. By the way, let's also mock Dan Bongino. You fucking scumbag, soulless loser. You're going to hell if there is one, and if not, you're already in it. You scumbag piece of shit, coward, lying, soulless, dishonorable monkey. Anyway, the article continues. The trial was beset by a 1-week delay after a mistrial was declared during jury selection when the judge learned one of the defense attorneys questioning potential jurors was wearing a left-wing political shirt. Alvarado Police Lieutenant Thomas Gross testified during the first week of trial that he was shot in the neck during the attack. His blood-stained bulletproof vest was entered into evidence. Antifa supporters had circulated claims online falsely saying the officer faked his injuries. The jurors were also shown the large cache of weapons and ammunition seized from the suspects. Investigators recovered mobile phones stored in Faraday bags designed to block signals, along with Antifa and anarchist anti-government propaganda that prosecutors said reflected the group's ideology. Prosecutors learned in the investigation that the cell acquired over 50 firearms in the Fort Worth, Dallas area prior to the attack. And again, this is from Andy No's Substack blog, and I will put a link in the description to that, as well as to the earlier article from the Andy No's Post Millennial that you're seeing right there from November 20th of last year, the year of 2025. All right, so leave me a comment. What do you folks think? After 10 years of doing this, again, I felt compelled to set aside all the other stuff I'm working on just to let you know, because, I mean, how could I not? This is my I told you so moment, or at least one of many. Anyway, this is a big one. All right, thanks, folks. Take care.